Hey Islanders, and welcome to episode 58 of the Camano Voice. Today I get to speak with the owner of Lopez Island Creamery. Please welcome Alex Thieman. Hi, I'm Brandon Erickson, and you're listening to the Camano Voice podcast, where I interview folks around Camano Island and beyond. If you want to stay up to date on events, businesses, and even hear a little history of this area, subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends. Thanks for listening. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice, where we release a new episode every Tuesday. On this episode, I got to speak to the owner of Lopez Island Creamery, and you probably already know this, but they provide our ice cream here at the marketplace. And I got to actually work with Alex and his team a little bit when I was preparing to launch the ice cream department here. They generously let me work with them and taught me some stuff. And anyways, not only that, they also helped us create a custom Camano Island coffee ice cream that we only sell here, which has just turned out really, really good. So anyways, we get into all of that. We also get into the surprising number of owners that Lopez Island Creamery has had in the past, and a little bit into that. And we get to hear Alex's story of how he ended up buying that business. And anyways, so without further ado, here's my conversation with Alex Thieman. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode. Today I'm here with the owner of Lopez Island Creamery. Welcome to the podcast, Alex Thieman.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about Alex.
So I, as we were talking about before we started here, I'm not a big talker, so you're going to have to push me along on all of this. But so grew up in Washington, native, grew up in Auburn, about 40 minutes south of Seattle. So Auburn High School graduate, PLU graduate, spent some time working in around Auburn, Sumner for a food and packaging brokerage, and then purchased Lopez Island Creamery in 2011.
Okay. Nice. So you
haven't ventured too far.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't either. So, so you grew up in Auburn. Did you guys were you pretty much stationary there? Did you guys move around?
Pretty stationary there.
Okay.
Really spent most of my whole life in Auburn.
Okay.
I suppose.
And did you have siblings in that? Do you have siblings?
Yeah. I have one sister and then quite a few step siblings.
Okay.
Who I got quite close with
Nice.
as the years went on. They're a little older, but a really good group of people to grow up with. So
Very
I was
cool.
lucky.
Nice. Okay, so you said you graduated high school and then you went to PLU, and PLU is Pacific
Lutheran University.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. What did you study there?
I studied psychology. I was partially interested in it, but I think at the beginning of my junior year, I went to the counselor and I asked her how I could possibly graduate on time, and she looked at what I'd done, and she said, well, if you go for psychology, you could probably graduate on time, and so that made that decision pretty easy. I wasn't what you'd call a star student, I don't think, so it was quite a series of miracles for me to graduate.
Okay, so why did you choose Pacific Lutheran?
My mother went there, and so that was, I suppose, kind of got me started on it right away. And other family members had too. Visited the campus, and it was really nice, and not a terribly large school, which I liked.
Yeah.
It did seem to be a really good fit for me. I really enjoyed my time there.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah. So then you said you graduated with a psychology degree. What were you planning on studying when you went in there? Was that your goal in the beginning, or?
It wasn't my goal at the beginning. I was planning on being a business major.
Okay.
But I think I took, maybe it was an accounting class for a good week, maybe two, and realized that really wasn't going to be an option for me. And so then switched out of it.
Okay. Why was it not an option?
I just wasn't very strong. Math, wasn't a strong suit, and it didn't hold my attention very well at the time. Mm-hmm. So again, I wasn't the strongest star student there. So, but it worked out okay. Psychology was very interesting, but for some time I thought maybe I'd go on and taking that as more of a career, but that takes a lot more schooling, really, to do anything with psychology. So
were you looking at like counseling or?
Yeah, counseling possibly I thought might be kind of interesting. But again, once I was getting close to graduating, I realized, boy, I think I'm done going to school now. So
Yeah. Well, that was something when I was going to school. It was, I went to engineering school, and there were certain people that you would come across, and they're like, yeah, like, I want to go and work a few years and then go back and get my master's, or people that were into school, and I was like, I am so done. When I am done with school, I'm never coming back.
Yeah, that's a familiar feeling. Yeah, I know.
So, plus it was so much work, and you don't get paid for it. You have to pay for doing that work. So then when that flips, I'm like, oh, this is so much better.
I know. Yeah, it is a lot better. Yeah, you have a lot to look forward to after school. Yeah, it's true.
Very cool. So then you graduated from PLU. Then where'd you go from there?
My stepfather is a general contractor, and so I worked for him throughout school, and then I worked for him for a bit after PLU. Just kind of waiting around for an opportunity to open up at a food and packaging brokerage. So it was a sales position where we would sort of be the sales team for larger food manufacturing companies, meeting with their reps, sales presentations to distributors, and that's kind of where I got to know a little about the sales structure in the food industry, got to know a couple players in this area, buyers and that kind of thing, that I didn't realize at the time, but would really help me along in my current position at Lopez Island Creamery.
Yeah.
So that was a really nice piece of knowledge to have that I probably didn't appreciate as much as I should have at the time.
Yeah. So you were doing construction. How did you make that jump? How did you get connected with that group?
That it was through a friend that it was a family friend was the owner of the business.
Okay.
And so I had mentioned my interest in working for them at the company, and then they eventually found a position for me that
Nice.
opened up. So yeah, it worked out really well. Very, very lucky there.
Nice. How long were you working with them?
It was about 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, which I didn't. I wouldn't say I was terribly good at it. I don't ever consider myself a great salesperson. I like, talking about things I'm passionate about and that kind of thing. But, we were selling things like food packaging, paper bags, and that kind of thing, which I wouldn't say I was terribly strong at. But it was a great learning experience, and so
yeah. And you probably had like mentors and stuff that were helping you along, and
for sure, yeah. I got to meet some really great people during that time. But yeah, was really happy to move on. That while I was at that company, I was looking for something else to do. I'd always wanted to own a company, and so looking for something else, and then finally it kind of came up.
Yeah. So
yeah.
then. How did that kind of come around then?
So yeah, I originally didn't. I wanted to run a company, I guess, and kind of from my time at school and in other positions, I realized that I'm probably not a good candidate for someone else to take me and say, I want you to run my company. So my option, I realized, would be that I need to do this on my own. So I need to, start a company or purchase a company. And I didn't necessarily have a lot of knowledge in how to run a company. So the plan is what happened, is to find a very small company that was affordable and manageable for me, and then that the previous owners would teach me how to kind of run the thing, and then I could take it from there.
Yeah.
So I had that was kind of my goal, is to find a company that I thought I could manage. So I looked, it's pretty broad. I mean, I put offers in on a gluten-free bakery, a home insulation company, party rental, and so it took about a year of reading lots of P&Ls and about different companies, and finally found Lopez.
Yeah.
And it really seemed like a good fit.
Very cool. Well, and something that we had an accountant that worked with us, and she moved on to another, like a larger company, and so then we didn't have an accountant, and I had been working with the company for about a year for my dad's company.
Yeah.
And at that point, he was like, "Well, we need someone to take this position." He's like, "Why don't you step into it?" And I was like, "Well, I was an engineer, but sure, I'll figure it out."
Yeah.
But it's, reading through multiple P&Ls and balance sheets and all that stuff. I mean, that'll give you a degree in accounting pretty quick, or at least give you a good understanding of how business runs, what things mean.
Yeah, that's right, and I that's definitely how I learned how to do it. It's just looking at all these different companies, and you compare where the profits are, what they're spending money on, and all these different line items. So that was really helpful too. That I still use that knowledge today.
Yeah,
looking at stuff. So
yeah,
it is.
Oh, go ahead.
So, sorry. It's funny how that really kind of that knowledge helps.
Yeah.
Along the way. So.
Was that intimidating to you after you'd kind of like looked at being a business major, gone through gone through that accounting class, and then were like, I don't know if I can do this, and then actually looking at the real world stuff? How did that feel?
I guess a little bit, but I think that was sort of part of my motivation too, is to do it when I was young, so that I wasn't married, didn't have kids, so I didn't have a lot of other obligations. But also, I figured this is my shot to do it when I'm young and can, if this doesn't work out, if I'm really not good at it, then I know, and I might still have time to go have another career and still make, something of myself.
Yeah.
But I sort of went into it with the thought that, I can't make this fail. It needs to stay alive and work, and I can't lose this amount of money.
Yes.
And waste all these years. So it to me, it was sort of every day. I was like, there's no other option. You just need to make it work.
Yeah.
When it was looking at book work and all that stuff, it just took a little longer. But,
yep.
Yeah.
Very
then finally we grew enough so we could hire somebody. So.
Yeah, when you're starting out, it's just you doing all those things.
Yeah, well, I should say I have had a lot of help. My sister, I pulled her into it early on.
Okay.
So at the time when I purchased Lopez Island Creamery, it was really small, and soon after things we had some turnaround within the one or two employees at the time. I begged my sister to come up and join me. So she was a big help and is much better at things that I'm not good at. Mm-hmm. So. We were both living in Seattle at the time, so every morning we'd meet up, commute up to Anacortes, and then she'd make ice cream and I'd do deliveries.
Okay.
And then we'd go home. And then at that time, too, my mom would come up a couple days a week and help with the book work and everything, which she's very good at. And so that's kind of how I got my feet wet, but couldn't have done it without them. And along the way, couldn't have done it with all the help from employees and friends.
Right.
So
tell us about, how did you get, so when you got connected with Lopez Island Creamery, you started talking with the previous owner. Mm-hmm. How did that transpire from there?
Let's see here. When initial contacts with the company came up and sort of just checked out the company. I think went on some deliveries with the owner at the time, Jim, just to kind of meet a few customers and see if this is, a legitimate company and if it has the legs to maybe continue to grow and that kind of thing. So, yeah, just got to know it a little bit. One of the big aspects to it at the time was that they were willing to hold the loan for me. I couldn't get a loan through a bank, mm-hmm. and so that was a big piece too. Is that that it'll all be financially possible.
Yeah.
And then once I kind of got to know the owners, we were really great and helpful. We wrote up a contract where a purchase price, and then also that they would stay on for 6 months and really kind of babysit it with me and make sure that I knew everything.
Yeah.
Before they left, because I was pretty nervous. I didn't know if I could do it right away.
Yeah.
So
when buying a business, that's a big venture. It's a lot of money you're putting on the table, and then it's not like a house where you're like, well, I'll live in here for the next however many years. Like, you're putting this much money down. You're like, and it could be gone in 3 years.
That's what it felt like. I know. It's like, boy, one misstep and this could really fall apart. Yeah. But no, it's worked out well. And yeah, they were a huge help, the previous owners, Jim and Jan, kind of getting things going and teaching me and answering all my silly questions at the time.
Yeah.
So
you know. When they, did they actually, I'm assuming they actually started it on Lopez Island.
Well, yeah, it did spend a lot of time on Lopez Island. The company had been going for quite a while, actually. It just hadn't grown very much. It was mainly just did business right on the islands and a little bit in Anacortes, I suppose, Skagit Valley. But it had actually gone, I think, through 3 different owners, including the ones I purchased it from.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I found this old article, I think it was the Seattle Times, possibly, from an owner before them, where they tried to sell it through this essay contest, where they put it out in the newspaper that said, you know, send in $200 and tell us why you deserve this company, and then we'll pick the best one. So I mean, it's sort of a funny history.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you know how old the company is then?
It's yeah, I don't know the exact date, but it's about 26 years old.
Okay.
I think. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that had gone through so many people. And yeah.
I know. I've run into people who have said they were the original owners or a previous owner. It was just sort of one time I just got a call in the afternoon, and it was this lady that said, I was the founder of Lopez Island Creamery, and I like rattled off a few questions, and then she had to go, and that was it. Never heard from her again.
Oh no.
And then there was another gentleman, you know, stopped me on the street and said, "Hey, I used to own Lopez Island Creamery," and talked to him for a little bit, and then that was it. So
nice.
Sort of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like buying an old house or something and finding a hidden room or something. You're
That's
like,
right.
Oh, okay. I didn't know this was here.
Yeah. Do I want to know this? I don't know. No, it's been really neat to be a part of a company who's had a long history on the islands, and helpful in its growth too, because people vacation out there and for years and have heard about it and appreciate the quality and of the product, and all of those previous owners seem to have done an excellent job keeping that quality up, and so I'm very appreciative of all the goodwill that came along with that because of them. So
yeah. No, for sure. So that's a long drive though. You guys were living in Seattle, driving to Anacortes every day.
Yeah, that was a nightmare. Yeah, and I was living in Tacoma when I first purchased it.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was my life, literally, where it would, multiple times a week, because the deliveries that I did were mainly on the islands, and then one day in Skagit Valley. And so I'd have to catch like a 6:30 ferry in Anacortes. So I'd be getting up at 4:00, doing deliveries, be back at 10:30 or 11, and then do it all over again.
Oh my word!
So yeah, it was interesting at the time. I'm glad to have survived and moved on from that part of my life.
Yeah. So how long were you living that far away from there?
I did that. So yeah, 6 months in Tacoma, and then I think my wife was going to school at UW, becoming a pharmacist, and so we moved to Seattle, and then I commuted from there for about 2 years, and then finally convinced her to move up to Anacortes. She was a little hesitant at first, but now we've really grown to love the area.
Yeah,
and don't want to move back to Seattle.
No. Yeah. You guys got out at the right time, I think, too.
I know. I agree. Yeah.
Okay. So then when you were taking over the company then, when you were taking over, I'm sure you looked at the P&L and everything and were looking at how you could grow it. What were kind of your thoughts when you first took over, like, okay, this is how I'm going to grow the company? Did you have, like, specific ideas of how you were going to do that?
Yeah. They weren't in a lot of markets. I think when I took over, they had just gotten into Whole Foods in Seattle. So it was like, at that time, maybe there were 4 stores in Seattle of Whole Foods. Mm-hmm. And then that was really it beyond like Skagit Valley and the islands. And so to me, it seemed like it had a really great product, a really great history. And there, at the time, things have really changed in the last 8 years. But at the time, there weren't a whole bunch of local ice cream companies
Mm-hmm.
in the area. And so it seemed like, if we could get the packaging together and get our story together, and that the product would be very well received,
Yeah.
in other grocery stores.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was really, I'd do deliveries, waiting for ferries. I'd just sit on the phone and call buyers, see if I could schedule meetings, and that was sort of my life at the time.
Yeah.
The company, I took it over. It couldn't keep doing what it was doing. It wasn't making money really, which is why it was affordable, I suppose. So I knew that I had to grow it to make it viable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, luckily it was a great product. I think that's the hardest part, but that's the easiest thing to sell.
Right.
As a great product.
Yeah.
So
Very cool. So that's where your sales training came back into practice?
that's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then okay, so then you guys started growing it. Were you guys still in the location you currently are in?
No.
Okay.
They had moved, and I think, I'm not sure exactly why they moved it. There was a lot of, it was hard to run a business on the island, on Lopez.
Yeah.
Limited ferries, a lot of traffic, and then getting ingredients on and off was really expensive.
Right.
So it seemed like, I think, a lot of that was the reason they moved off about a year before they tried to sell it.
Okay.
And I think that was also played into it, that they thought it's going to be a pretty limited market who would want to take over a business on an island.
Right.
And so then I took it over at that point. And it was a really small location. I remember at one point I was doing these sales calls and just calling anybody and everyone. And there's this restaurant, a really great restaurant group called Duke's Seafood and Chowder.
Oh, okay.
They have 8 locations now. And, it was one of those calls where I was like, well, there's no chance they're going to call me, but I might as well put my name out there and maybe they'll, think of us as we keep growing. And anyways, the executive chef called me right back and said, oh, we really like your story, all these things, we'd be interested in meeting with you. And they wanted to come up. Duke himself, the founder, and his whole executive team, it seemed like a very big deal to us at the time, and it was, because we were such a small company. They wanted to come up the next day. And our kitchen factory office was so small. I mean, we were like nothing at the time, and we spent the whole night. We were painting the floors and doing all these things to make it so that it seemed like we really had everything together, and we were this just really organized company. And they came up and we did this whole presentation, and I remember the floors, they hadn't even really dried yet. We were kind of like sticking on the floor. I was like, oh my gosh, it's never gonna work. But again, I mean, it was a great product, and Duke and his team, I mean, they're looking for a great product, natural product, something they could be proud to serve their customers, and they could see that we were very passionate about what we were making. So I had to hand it to them that they believed in us, and it was those type of customers that really allowed us to grow.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, to answer your question, we're not in that factory anymore, thank goodness. I think we were running, it was like a size of a large bedroom, I think.
Wow.
And so now we're in 4,000 square feet.
Nice.
Sort of changed our whole process and moved in there about 5 years ago. But we've since grown out of that as well. So we're building we're about to start construction on our new factory. Which
Oh,
will
really?
be about 3 times larger than that.
Wow.
So.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So it's been fun. A little exhausting. I feel like I'm still recovering from our last move, but that's all right.
Yeah. Where's I'm assuming in Anacortes, but where
It is, yeah.
where are you guys building now?
It'll be right across. We're right on Highway 20 as you come in past the Twin Bridges.
Okay.
And so right now we're on the right side, right as you come to that first stoplight, and we'll be on the left side.
Okay.
It'll be near Jerry Smith Chevrolet.
Okay.
So
Very
yeah,
cool.
it'll give us more space and be able to keep growing and keep improving our product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, were you guys what were you guys super limited on like your flavors and stuff like that, or were you a lot more heavily rotating your flavors if you were in that small of a space initially?
That would have been the smarter thing to do, but no. We have always, the amount of flavors will be our demise, I think. We probably carry 90 different flavors now.
Wow.
And we're not making those all, like, every week. But we make all of them fairly often. I mean, it's kind of crazy. So yeah, it always happens to be that somebody will call us and say, oh, we'd love to carry your ice cream, but do you make... candied ginger or something like that. And we'll say, oh, yeah, of course. What's one more flavor? And so now here we are, 20 years later with 90 different flavors. But it's fun. I think, that's one of the benefits that we think we can offer to our customers is we're happy to create custom flavors for them. And they end up being really good.
Yeah.
People are always asking, are you working on, new flavor for your, and it's mostly, I think, developed through chefs and owners of other companies. That's kind of why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And they have great ideas, and it's fun to collaborate with them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, that was a huge, neat thing for us when we were starting up working with you guys is, we were like, well, it'd be really neat to have a coffee ice cream that actually used our coffee.
That's right.
And you guys were like, we could do that. And I was like,
What's
really?
one more? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, you're part of the problem there. Yeah. No.
You're welcome.
That's right.
So yeah, I think that's such a neat aspect of your guys' business that you guys have continued to be very dynamic and build those things out.
Yeah. It does make it more fun, and we like to say yes a lot more than no, and so it hasn't caught up with us yet, but maybe someday.
Very cool. So a question I had, there's a lot of other big ice cream. There's high-end, low-end big ice cream brands in this area and stuff like that. But then there's also a lot of micro ice creameries where they just make it for their shop and stuff. But how do you guys stand out from other ice cream companies, stuff like that?
Yeah, there's quite a few aspects of why we stand out. When we compare ourselves to very large companies, Ben & Jerry's or Tillamook or that kind of thing. We do things very different. Mm-hmm. And then, even the smaller companies, so anyways, we started off, most small ice cream companies purchase a bagged, pre-made ice cream mix, which Lopez did too, when I took over. So you purchase it from a large dairy and you specify the butterfat that you're looking for. And then you take that, 2.5 gallon bag of ice cream mix and pour it into your batch freezer and then add in your inclusions, your strawberries or whatever your flavor is. Mm-hmm. And then 10 minutes later, you have your ice cream. Okay. And you can make an excellent ice cream that way, but you don't have very much control over the most important ingredient. The cream and the sugar and the egg yolks, that mixture really is sort of the bread and butter to you why your ice cream is, good or bad. Mm-hmm. And that is something I realized soon after purchasing the company that would be really nice, be a nice thing to control. Mm-hmm. It's hard to purchase locally if you're buying a bagged mix, and it's hard to be in complete control of your, safety measures because you're really doing a very small portion of the manufacturing process. Yep. So that was sort of a goal when I first purchased it, to someday be making your own mix, but you need to get to a certain volume to make it reasonable, because you're having to, take in large amounts of cream and then pasteurize the cream and sugars and egg yolks and that kind of thing. So it took us, 5 years or so, but then with that move, that gave us the space, and we also had the business to support that.
Okay.
So now we're proud to say that we do take fresh cream from local farms, pasteurize in-house, and make an ice cream that is truly made from scratch. And we have complete control of it and can make even more custom flavors for different customers, change the butter fats and the sugars and everything.
Wow.
So it did add a much more to the manufacturing process, but it also made us more efficient too in the long run.
Very cool.
Which is nice, yeah.
How was that change for you guys then? Like as far as implementing it, because I'm imagining that's a massive change from just taking a bag and mixing it versus this whole massive process.
Yeah, it was. I was really nervous about that. Yeah, we were running on this little facility that I sort of took over at the time, and got in touch with Nether Industries out of Enumclaw. They help breweries along with dairies sort of outfit tanks and can kind of create these production facilities. So I met with them quite a few times and got to sort of see, okay, I'm looking for these sort of tanks, and started looking to purchase most everything used from all over the country because stainless steel is very expensive, as you probably know here. So kind of pieced together this facility that we were kind of building while we were operating out of the little one. Mm-hmm. And I remember after months and months of construction, going over there, it was finally done, and like worked up this recipe and everything, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really hope this works. Like we're putting a lot of hope into this, and pasteurized it and threw it in the machine and froze it up, and it turned out great. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is going to be something. So yeah, it was, but it was really, it was really stressful at the time, but it also felt like a big turning point for the company. To be able to do that, it felt like, okay, if we can do this, we can produce, any type of ice cream, and really improve our product, and our story. Being able to purchase locally was always the thing that we really wanted to do, but couldn't. I mean, we were purchased from Oregon companies before, which isn't too bad, but it's more fun to be purchasing locally. So
yeah. So how often do you guys get loads of milk delivered?
About once a week.
Okay.
So yeah, we produce somewhere around 4,500 gallons of ice cream per week. I remember last year I was looking at the numbers on QuickBooks, and I realized that for a whole year period, we produced the same amount of ice cream in, I think, 2.5 weeks' time that we did for a full year when I first took over, like 7 years ago. And so it's fun to see like how different the business is, and how far we've come.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations. Very cool. So then, how far does Lopez Island Creamery span right now as far as delivery range and stuff?
It's mainly Alaska, Washington, Oregon.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, the majority of it's going to Washington, I suppose. There's a couple years ago, I noticed on our sales sheet that I started seeing Guam pop up. So one of our distributors distribute to Guam as well. So so we go out there quite a ways, but that was sort of just a weird deal. I didn't do a sales call out there, although I think I'd like to. But
yeah, it'd be nice. Yeah, especially during the winter over here.
Right. Seriously.
Very cool. So then you guys are building the new facility and everything. What kind of, apart from just production, what else, is there anything else that you're kind of building within this facility that you're like really excited that you weren't able to do in the first one that you built?
The capability is a big one, where our tanks are getting, they're feeling pretty small again. And the number of machines that we can have in our current facility it's getting pretty cramped. Storage is always an issue. We need larger freezers now to store ice cream. We're coming out. We've been making these ice cream sandwiches that have been very well received.
Nice.
But we can't make very large quantities of them in our current facility.
Okay.
It's labor intensive. We just don't have the room for it. And we don't want to put out a product that is rushed or we can't do right.
Right.
So we're doing as many as we can right now. But the new facility will allow for that. We're also working on possibly having a small tasting room for some customers to come in and try our ice cream, and yeah, I might even have an office at this point. I'm not sure. I'm dreaming big over there. So.
Oh, very cool. So then, how many people do you have working for you right now? Then
We have our business is pretty seasonal still. So summer we have probably about 20 employees, and then during the rest of the year we're at 10 or 11.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a small, close-knit group. We have like a really, really excellent crew.
Yeah.
And they're really fun to work with. I
Nice.
think one of the biggest bummers about this COVID going on is that we can't all get together after work and do all these things. We've been sad about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. How has that kind of affected you as far as your business and everything?
We certainly had to scramble quickly to put processes together to make sure we were allowing a safe environment to work in for employees, making sure our product was safe. We do a lot of cleaning as it is, and so surface cleaning and machinery and all that, sanitizing, we felt really good about. We kind of readdressed all of that, I suppose, and continue to just as things change and more data comes out. But yeah, it certainly affected us. Half of our business is into restaurants, food service, scoop shops, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so as you're very well aware of, a lot of those customers shut down or really slowed down.
Right.
So that really hurt us, kind of early on. But it has come back quite a bit. The other half of our business, luckily, is into grocery stores, retail. And so that's picked up quite a bit. Okay. And it hasn't completely made up for the losses, but it's getting pretty close.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's what I was kind of wondering. I was like, I'd imagine your grocery store sales went way up because people couldn't do nothing and just stay at home. And if I'm at home, I want to eat ice cream.
Good. Yeah, I know it. That's what we were hoping for. Yeah, that's true. So that really helped us in that way. We feel really lucky. Watching a lot of our restaurant customers, they've done an amazing job to sort of pivot to a different type of business, grab and go, and that kind of thing. So I consider ourselves very lucky to be able to keep operating at a semi-normal state.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. So what do you kind of see as the future of Lopez Island Creamery moving forward?
The future, the goal has always been, I suppose, for Lopez to be the Northwest's favorite brand, I guess. And so we're always kind of, most of our decisions are, kind of based around that idea, is that we want to be, our region's favorite ice cream. So if that's, keep continuing to improve quality and efficiency, then that's our goal. And that's a lot of the motivation for the new building, being able to be more open to the public. We have this really cool process, but it's people come in from time to time and we give them a tour, but it's not really set up for tours very well. But it's really interesting and a cool thing. And so we thought that would be kind of a neat opportunity that we could give to the area around here to come see what we're doing and why this ice cream is so special, and how we buy locally and produce by hand and all that. So to keep building on that, I think has been the goal. And obviously kind of keep growing with that, coming up with new products. We're excited about these ice cream sandwiches, and building our food service side as well.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
yeah. I suppose I don't have like a hard goal in mind, no hard numbers or anything.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of fun with the group that's there right now, and so we always want to make sure there's room for lots of fun too.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have a mission statement?
No.
Okay. That's good. Because you were saying being
I know.
the Northwest favorite ice cream brand. I was like, oh, that sounds like it's like part of a mission statement.
I know. Yeah, we should have a mission statement. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Talk to the owner about that.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, very cool. All right. Well, I always end the podcast with some rapid fire questions, but I edited them a little bit this time because you're not here on Camano. But I think it'll be good because it'll give the listener some new areas to go check out in the area. So, first one is, do you have a lesser known or favorite location in this area that you like to hang out?
Yeah, I do like. I mean, you can't really go wrong with anywhere around here. It does feel like. But yeah, there's just beaches everywhere. I really like having a picnic or hanging out with friends at the beach in Anacortes, Washington Park. Is a really great park there, and if you go down sort of on the south side, I suppose I think it's called Secret Beach, and there's a little staircase. It's a little hard to see, but it's usually not too crowded, and a really, really pretty place to hang out.
Nice. Yeah. Pretend you have a friend coming from out of town. What would their first day look like?
It depends on the season, but yeah, this time of year, certainly crabbing's open, so... Yeah, my family and we spent a lot of time out on the boat, crabbing and fishing and shrimping, and so always excited to have friends and family come up and join us in that. Yeah. So yeah, I suppose that'd be at the top of the list.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I was talking with someone else, but it's interesting because it's like I've grown up with crabbing and stuff like that. Like it's been part of the summers and stuff like that. But a lot of people have never done that. Like. Yeah, it's not something that you can just go out and do. Like you pretty much have to have your own boat, and
Yeah, I think last year, the year before last was I'd never crabbed before, and so it is really fun. Yeah, it hasn't worn off yet.
Yeah, yeah. No, the kids think it's great.
Yeah, they really do.
All right, who is an interesting or fascinating person in this community that I should interview next?
I think right now it would certainly be interesting maybe talking to some restaurant owners to see how they've changed their business. I think they're one of the business groups that have really had to pivot in a big way. So we have some great restaurants who also happen to be our customers in Anacortes, like Kaya at Adrift or Tim at A-Town. They've done some cool things. Rick at Rockfish to sort of stay open, but also keep their employees and customers safe. I think that might be pretty interesting to hear how they sort of came to their new business model and what sort of struggles and successes they had. I'd certainly be interested in tuning in for that. Yeah,
very cool. All right, and lastly, if you could have a message on a billboard, we'll just say on the freeway, what would that say?
Oh, right now, I suppose you'd have to say something about wearing your mask. Maybe remember to remove your mask before ice cream or something like that.
That'd be a good one. Yeah. Could be sponsored by Lopez Island.
There you go. That's right. Yeah, you got a little plug in there.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. All right, and Islanders, I will talk to you on the next one. Well, a big thank you to Alex Thieman for joining me on the podcast today, and thank you for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us be found by other Islanders like yourself. And for more information on this episode, you can go to CamanoCommons.com/EP58. That's CamanoCommons.com/EP58. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.